Hello Junior Tuckies. In today's lesson we are going to do exam preparation. Particularly we are going to focus on the summary. I'm Mrs. Burdenkamp and I hope this lesson helps you out in your exam preparations. Let's start off with the steps in finding the main points in your summary. First step is to read the instructions carefully. Now I know this sounds very simple and quite obvious, but the instructions are the most important thing when doing a summary question. In fact, it's the most important thing in all exams. You will find your word counts over there. You're going to find out what you need to be looking for in the summary, and knowing, identifying, understanding what you're looking for is the key over here. Then step 2, you need to read the text at least twice. Unfortunately, reading it once, you're not going to get the understanding of the text. Reading it twice will give you a better understanding, and if you can, read it a third time if you do have time in your exam. Then, step 3, you need to highlight the main ideas or points in each paragraph. Now, what's very important over here is to always remember to refer back to the question. What are you trying to summarize? Then, step 4, you need to actually plan your paragraph. You need to say all of the different things that you have highlighted and try to put it into your own words. This is incredibly important because we call it lifting or copying and pasting. You are not allowed to do this in a summary. So by highlighting it, planning your paragraph, you can put these main points into your own words. You also need to use linking phrases like to clarify, further, not furthermore, first, second, and third, not firstly, secondly, and thirdly, or for instance. And a very important point over here is do not write in point form. If you do take Afrikaans, FAL, this is something that you do in that subject, but in English we always write in a paragraph. Then in step 5, read through your paragraph and make sure it makes sense. This is very important. And then check for any errors. I'm going to show you in the next couple of slides how we mark the summary, and checking for errors is one of the greatest tools or tips that I can give you. And then step 6, do not forget this step. You need to write your word count in the square brackets on the right-hand side of your paper. This is going to make it very easy or visible for your marker to be able to see your word count. Let's go on to the next slide. All right, let's have a look at how we mark the summary. So this is the same paper that I used for the comprehension. You'll see here's my highlighted bits of the comprehension, so it is exactly the same paper. So over here, grade 11s, this is how summaries are all marked across South Africa. If you are in the IEB, it will be a little bit different, but we do try stick to this, this rubric over here. So the mark allocations are as follows. There are 7 marks for 7 points. So you get 1 mark per point, and then you get the 3 additional marks for the way that you use language, which gives you a total of 10. So the distribution of language marks when the candidates have used their own words. Do you see how important this is over here? I'm even going to highlight it. Your own words. So if you get 1 to 3 points correct, you get 1 mark. If you get 4 to 5 points correct, you award 2 marks. And then if you get 6 to 7 points correct, you award 3 marks in the language section. Then, this is the distribution of the language marks when candidates have quoted verbatim. So they've taken it directly from the text, which is not what we want you to do. If you've taken 6 to 7 quotes, you get no language mark. You get 0. If you've taken 1 to 5 quotes, you only get 1 mark for language. Depending on how bad it is, you might get 2 marks for language. Then let's have a look at the word counts. Markers are required to verify the number of words, so yes, we do actually count. Do not deduct any marks if the candidate fails to indicate the number of words used or if the number of words used is indicated incorrectly. If the word limit is exceeded, read up until the last sentence. Okay, so if you've perhaps gone 100 words over, or you've done 100 words and you've got 10 words over, we will stop marking at that sentence where it ends off. Okay, that is very important to make sure that your word count is absolutely correct. let's practice with this paper. So over here, I've got the summary. I'm at question 2. I want to imagine, or let you imagine rather, that you're writing this exam. So let's have a look. One of the most important things here is summarizing in your own words. I cannot stress it enough, grade 11s, you need to put everything in your own words. Let's read the instructions, which is step 1 and very important. The article below is based on a survey carried out by Travel Start, a travel booking website. You are required to write a fluent paragraph only, highlighting that, very important. I'm already moving on to step 3, containing 7 different points in which you summarize the main findings of the survey. Okay, so in the instructions already, we know it has to be a paragraph, but you know that already. There has to be 7 points, and we need to summarize the findings of the survey, the findings of what Travel Starts conducted in the survey. Then you must use your own words as far as possible. Do not volunteer your own information. This means you do not give any type of general knowledge. You do not give any type of opinion either. You must write in full sentences, and you should be doing this in any exam. You need not supply a heading. So in some cases, the summary does ask you to supply a heading. That's why it's very important to read your instructions. Then you need to state the correct number of words at the end of your summary, the correct number of words, and then you may not use more than 90 words. Now, I know that it says 100 over there, but this paper is quite old. Usually, and what it's been changed to now is 90 words. Okay, so we have read the instructions. Let's read our summary. Text C, South African travelers do it the cheap way. Most South Africans are willing to sacrifice comforts to explore new frontiers, according to a new survey. In a poll of more than 3,000 businesses, tourists and travelers, booking website travelstart.co.za discovered that nearly a third of South Africans spend only $21 or 219 Rand a day while traveling, with 62% willing to sacrifice eating out at restaurants and 42% willing to give up a party at bars and nightclubs. After these, the indulgences tourists most commonly jettison are junk food, 40%, alcohol, 39%, and cigarettes, 33%. They have also become fastuous and unceasing in the quest for a frugal flight. 42% will get more than 3 quotations from travel sites before booking a plane. Scattered throughout the survey, responses lay bits of advice for aspiring low budgeters, like make your own snacks to take with you everywhere, one respondent wrote. Others advised sticking to a pre-established budget, combining breakfast and lunch and staying in hotels further away from the bustling metropolitan areas. Some of the habits were surprising, said Nick Paul, Travel Start's social media manager. He cited Trevor's willingness to skimp on restaurants' fare as a particularly unexpected finding, saying his company thought most tourists viewed dining out as a basic part of their travel experiences. He said that the survey's results could alter the way his company and the tourism industry would cater to tourists and travelers in the long run. But despite the astronomical charges for international data roaming, most travelers refused to be disconnected from social media and the internet, with only 27% saying they would forsake their smartphones and laptops for the health of their bank accounts. Russell Jarvis, Travel Start's content manager, cited the powerful role social media could play in bragging rights while abroad. With a few hashtags and an Instagrammed photo of an exotic locale, he said, a traveler's social status is immediately elevated. Okay, so there's a lot of information in the summary that is irrelevant to the question that we need to cover. We need to summarize the main findings in the survey. So what's a finding? Grade 11s, this is facts, things that they have found out in the survey and put into this article. Okay, I'm going to switch over to the memo because I want you to see what the memo looks like for a summary. So the summary memo looks something like this. So we have any valid 7 points, and it must be in paragraph form. So on the one side, we have the quotation marks, or not the quotation marks, but the quotes from the summary. And then we actually have on the other side what it would be like, similar to a person's own words. So obviously, it does not need to be exactly like this verbatim, but it does need to be in your own words. I cannot stress it more and more. You're going to get sick of me saying that this whole lesson. All right, so let's take a look. I want you to have a look at what are the main ideas in each paragraph. Remember, we are focusing on this main findings. So let's look at paragraph 1. Most South Africans are willing to sacrifice comfort to explore new frontiers, according to a new survey. So how do we know that this is a main point or main finding? It says according to the survey, so it is definitely linked to the main findings over here. So most South Africans are willing to sacrifice comfort to explore, or I'm actually just going to put it there. They're willing to sacrifice comfort. Okay, let's have a look at the memo. Most South Africans are willing to sacrifice comfort to explore new frontiers. A nice way to put it in your own words, most South Africans are willing to have less comfort in order to travel more. All right, then let's look at the next point we can find. In a poll of more than 3,000 businesses, tourists and travelers booking website travelstart.co.za discovered that nearly a third of South Africans spend only $21 or 219 Rand a day while traveling, with 62% willing to sacrifice eating out at restaurants and 42% willing to give up a party at bars and nightclubs. All right. So, do we have a main point over here or a main finding? One of the main findings was, yes, that they only spent $21 or 219 Rand a day, but also the sacrifice of eating out at restaurants and 42% willing to give up partying at bars and nightclubs. So, let's have a look at the memo. What does it say? So, over here, 62% were willing to sacrifice eating out at restaurants. Putting it into your own words, over half said they would happily forego eating at restaurants, or they would happily not eat at restaurants. Now, why, excuse me for that, now why wasn't this $21 and this 42% included inside of this findings? Why is it not included in the memo? Remember, a memo, or rather we call it a marking guideline, it's a guideline. So you can add as you go. And this often happens because people have different perceptions, markers have different ways of doing things. So for me in this case, the $21 or 219 Rand is more of a opinion-based finding over here, and this 42% of willing to giving up partying at bars kind of does lend to the fact that people won't want to eat out at restaurants at all. Okay, let's move on to the next paragraph. And these, the indulgences tourists most commonly jettison are junk food for 40%, alcohol 39%, cigarettes 33%. They have also become fast tourists and unceasing in the quest for a frugal flight. So 42% will get more than 3 quotations from travel sites before booking a plane. All right, let's have a look at what the memo says for this particular paragraph. So over here, we've got make your own snacks to take with you everywhere. One respondent wrote. Did we have any of that information that we just saw in that paragraph? No. But if I have to look at this as an outside person, as an outside opinion, excuse me for this, I would definitely say that you could highlight the fact that people would like to spend money on junk food, 40%, alcohol, 39%, and cigarettes, 33%. Also, the fact that 42% will get 3 quotations from a travel site. Then, scattered throughout the survey responses lays bits of advice for aspiring low budgeters, like this making your own snacks to take with you everywhere you go, and others advising to stick to a pre-established budget combining breakfast and lunch, staying in hotels further away from the bustling metropolitan areas. Let's have a look at what the memo says. So over here we do have the make your own snacks with you everywhere. One respondent wrote, a way to put that in your own words, people are prepared to make their own snacks to save money, or people are prepared to make their own food instead of eating out. Then over here, the tourists mostly commonly jettison junk food, alcohol, and cigarettes. Okay, so over a third of them are prepared to give up luxuries like junk food, alcohol, and cigarettes. Let's go to the next one. Some of the habits were surprising, said Nick Paul, Travel Start's social media manager. He cited travelers' willingness to skimp on restaurant fare as a particularly unexpected finding, saying his company thought most tourists viewed dining out as a basic part of their travel experiences. Do we have a main finding over here? Let's have a look at what the memo says. So, they have become fastidious and unceasing in their quest for a frugal fright. The most travelers refuse to be disconnected from social media, and the content manager cited the powerful role social media plays in bragging rights while abroad. Does this paragraph fit into any of this memo? No, it doesn't. So let's move on to the next one. He said the survey's results could alter the way his company and the tourism industry would cater to tourists and travelers in the long run. But despite astronomical charges for international data roaming, most travelers refuse to be disconnected from social media and the internet. We found that one, and looking at the memo, that's exactly what is over here. To put that in your own words, you can say they are still willing to spend money to stay connected on social media networks. Then, a Russell Jarvis, Travel Start's content manager, cited the powerful role social media could play in bragging rights while abroad. With a few hashtags and an Instagrammed photo of an exotic locale, he said, a traveler's social status is immediately elevated. So one of the things they found was that people like to have bragging rights while they're on holiday. So let's have a look over here. The content manager cited. So cited means to refer back to. So we can also look at that word as something that's quite formal. The fact that people want bragging rights while abroad. Seeing a way that you could put it into your own words, tourists still love to show off and let others know where they are. Then usually a paragraph is provided for everyone, for the markers to see an example. Of course, no one is going to write this paragraph exactly how it is in the memo, but let's have a look. Most South African travelers are willing to have less comfort when they travel in their quest to travel more. They willingly forego luxuries such as eating out at restaurants and having treats, often making their own snacks. Some opt for cheaper hotels further from the city centres. They also do careful research in order to find the cheapest flights. However, almost 3/4 of those surveyed refuse to be disconnected from their social media and are willing to pay expensive roaming charges, largely so that they can brag about where they are. And then over there we have 91 words as the word count. Now, as you can see in this example, they have used all of the points. Now, I'm going to actually show you how we mark the, I'm going to use a little red pen, how we mark the summary over here. Okay, so what we do is that we give a mark and we actually say what number it is on our list. So they are willing to have less comfort, 1 mark over there. What is this over here? They're willing to have less comfort, so I'm going to write number 1. I've got 1 point. And when they travel in their quest to travel more, they willingly forego luxuries such as eating out at restaurants and having treats. Okay, this is another point over here. I'm going to go back to my memo and look at what point it is over here. It is point number 2. So I'm going to write point number 2 over here. Excuse the pen. Often making their own snacks. So I know this is one of the points. So I'm going to tick it as well. And look at the memo. What number is it? They are prepared to make their own snacks to save money. That is point number 3. Here we go. Some opt for cheaper hotels further from the city centres. Okay, this is also a point over here. But did we see this over here? Yes, number 5. They're willing to stay in places that are not around the city centre to try to save money. So that is point 5 over here. Sorry, 5 is difficult to draw. They do careful research in order to find the cheapest flights. We know this is a nice one, a nice point over here, the cheapest flights. That is point number 6. However, now I do want to highlight this word because this could be used as a nice linking phrase or linking word to change up your paragraph. Then, almost 3/4 of all those surveys refuse to be disconnected from their social media. This is one of the points. So let's have a look at what it is. They are willing to spend money to stay connected to their social media. So that is point 7. And they are willing to pay expensive roaming charges. This also forms part of point 7, largely so that they can brag about where they are. And this is point 8 over here. So let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've already got the points over here. And then what would happen is that we would have almost like a content mark. So draw it like this. If you've seen this perhaps in your on your test, content, and then we usually have language over here. So for content, got the full 7 points, so you get 7 marks. In this particular one, obviously it was checked, it was proofread. There are no language errors, so they get the full 3 mark, and so a total of 10 out of 10 for the summary. Thank you for watching this lesson, Junior Tuckies. I really hope that it gives you a clear idea of how to do a summary in the future. Next up is question 3, analyzing advertising. Good luck and goodbye.